Today was workout number 13 for the Crimson Tide. Notice Nico Johnson out of the black jersey, back to full speed. Boy, he looks good. Only one more practice, and then it's A-Day on Saturday. We'll talk about the big storylines from the spring, plus discuss last Saturday's scrimmage. That's right here, right now, on Tider Insider TV.
Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
Well, it's A-Day week here at the University of Alabama. Welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider TV presented by Buffalo Rock, bottlers of outstanding Pepsi products. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm Gary Harris. We've got you covered. Now, the last time we saw Alabama's Marcell Dareus in action, he was taking out Texas quarterback Colt McCoy and then later returning an interception for a touchdown. It was an unbelievable interception return, as a matter of fact. 3 months later, the Bama defensive lineman hasn't missed a beat. Rodney, in Saturday's scrimmage, he was a beast. 10 tackles and 5 sacks, a tackle for loss, and 2 pass breakups. That's what he was credited with. I talked to a couple people at the scrimmage that said he had more sacks than that. Unbelievable effort. And the defense looked good as a whole. Dante Hightower is certainly getting closer to 100%. He recorded 8 tackles and had 2 sacks. That's good to see. Big number 30 back out there running around. In fact, as I mentioned, the whole defense showing improvement. Coach Saban was pleased, and he'd like to see that positive momentum on the defensive side continue.
I thought the defense played a lot better today. I don't think that's always true in practice. I don't think we always practice the way we need to practice to continue to improve, to get better. Some of our young players don't understand the intensity that you need to have day in, day out, play in, play out.
Offensively speaking, all 4 Crimson Tide quarterbacks saw action on Saturday afternoon. The Tide ran roughly 120 plays. 93 of those were passes. Julio Jones had a great day again. 9 receptions, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Mark Ingram flashing his Heisman form, 72 yards and a touchdown on 19 carries. Now, those were leaders from Saturday. We'll show you some other numbers in just a minute. But first, Rodney, your reaction to Alabama's second scrimmage. Obviously, again, you just got to take in the warm-ups, but from what you've been able to gather, how did it go?
Well, again, you know, we've talked about it before. They were looking for improvement from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2, and Nick Saban seemed really happy afterwards. And, you know, he actually, Gary, the latter part of last week, he seemed to be beaming in terms of, you know, his, I guess you could say, praise for Nick Saban for the team. And certainly with the athleticism and all the recruiting that they've done, we're starting to see how this team is developing with all of that talent.
Rodney, real quickly, and I know they haven't even wrapped up spring yet and have a whole series of fall practices, but just based on the indications that you've seen in the spring, what do you think of this football team in 2010?
Well, they've got a really good chance to be obviously strong offensively, Gary. I mean, nobody in the country has 2 better backs probably than Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson, and they have some younger guys behind those like Eddie Lacy. And a good offensive line, a good nucleus returning. Obviously, they've got to find a replacement at left guard. I think they'll do that for Mike Johnson, right tackle, for Drew Davis, who started the last 28 games. Defensively, you know, there's a lot of youth there, certainly in the secondary, but there's a lot of talent as well, and nobody coaches the secondary better than Nick Saban.
All right, we passed around a few of the numbers. Of course, Dareus just a beast, but let's go ahead and take a look at some of the numbers compiled by the University of Alabama Sports Information staff. Obviously, both quarterbacks had good days. The running backs mixing it up. The first scrimmage, it was Richardson going big. This time it was Ingram. Just what do you see there?
Well, again, I think when you look at it, A.J. McCarron had an outstanding day as a backup quarterback. Greg McElroy, there you see his numbers. But, you know, 3 touchdown passes for A.J., no interceptions. He's got 6 TD passes in 2 scrimmages. Phillip Sims, he's not listed there, but Gary, I mean, how many times have you seen a freshman quarterback come in and he went a lot against the ones. He was 15 of 19, 139 yards. They said he had a big time touchdown pass on a 3rd down play that was, I mean, just tremendous arm strength.
And is Brandon Gibson finally ready to make some noise?
There's a lot of receptions, obviously, and you know, certainly as you look at Julio Jones, he's had back-to-back 100-yard scrimmages in terms of receptions, so that's good to see.
And on defense, of course, we talked about Dareus and Hightower, but John Fulton, straight out of high school at cornerback, had a nice day.
Yeah, he did. In fact, 5 tackles, a tackle for a loss, and Marcell Dareus, we mentioned him, Dante Hightower. Will Lowry, how about that, Gary? A walk-on safety. You know, making quite a name for himself. Great opportunity for Will to possibly get a significant playing time next year. His strength, he knows the defense, he knows the calls, and that's certainly something Nick Saban always looks for. And again, B.J. Scott, good to see him progressing as well.
All right, let's talk more about A.J. McCarron. I mean, obviously, Greg McElroy is a senior starter and never lost a game, but McCarron, anybody that watches him throw, I mean, the physical talent is obvious. He's got the measurables, he's got the arm, and he seems to have the intangibles as well. I mean, he's really been impressive.
Yeah, he has, Gary. He's put up some really good stats, obviously, in the first 2 scrimmages. He has great height. He has the ability to throw the ball, as you mentioned, strong arm, and certainly has all the things. I think when you look at A.J., another thing that he brings is, you know, playing quarterback at Alabama, there's more to it than getting out on the field and executing. It's not allowing the things on the peripheral to bother you. I think he has that kind of mentality. He doesn't worry about what people say. He doesn't get, you know, all shook up over things. He certainly seems to have a lot of composure in that regard. And, you know, who has 2 possibly better young quarterbacks than Alabama does with McCarron and Phillip Sims?
Yeah, you know, I want to phrase this the right way because Greg McElroy is 14-0 and a national championship quarterback. He is the starter, but it is not a bad thing if he has to look over his shoulder at those freshmen every now and then and take stock in what they're getting accomplished.
Well, certainly, and again, I think, you know, people need to understand we're talking about the future. We're not necessarily talking about next season. We're talking about down the road that Alabama seems to be set very well at the quarterback position with A.J. and with Phillip Sims. And certainly we mentioned Sims earlier, what he did in the scrimmage. And, you know, those 2 guys right now, they're battling for the backup job, if you want to look at it that way. Certainly they're going to be the guys in the future that will battle for the starting job after next season when Greg McElroy leaves.
Not even now. It's a good thing to have competition, and for Greg McElroy to feel a little bit threatened, I just don't think it's a bad thing.
And you never know when a quarterback's going to go down. You have to have people ready.
That's right. Well, this Saturday is A-Day, and that means we're going to be working overtime. Rodney and myself going to be joining you live from just outside Bryant-Denny Stadium at 12 noon for the Tider Insider TV A-Day special. We'll have interviews with former players. We'll have feature stories. We're going to have, of course, fans walking by. It's brought to you by Cook's Pest Control and Centricon. So please join us. Make us part of your A-Day plans on Saturday. Well, still to come tonight, bad news this week for Alabama's Robbie Green. He will miss the entire 2010 season. We'll discuss why. And also, we'll be getting your phone calls and taking your emails. Give us a ring, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or email us, TITV@WVUATV.com. But up next, former Crimson Tide defensive end and captain Todd Bates will join us live in the studio. Tider Insider TV, live from the University of Alabama campus. You're looking at it. Isn't that a great shot? We'll be back in 2 minutes.